The LGB Alliance was set up in 2019 to protect the rights of same-sex attracted people. The founders believed that gay rights were being eroded by an overemphasis on transgender issues. And indeed, it was the trans group Mermaids who took them to court last year to get their charitable status removed. But the case was thrown out of court just a few days ago when a tribunal ruled that Mermaids had no legal standing to bring the case. Well, I'm joined now by two of the co-founders of the LGB Alliance, Kate Harris and Bev Jackson. Kate and Bev, I don't mind which one of you answers this, but I mean, there was an awful lot of publicity given to this particular case to take away, as we say, your charitable status. But I suspect that actually underlying all of this, there was a toxic atmosphere between you. So just tell me to start with how this whole set of publicity has actually affected the work that you do when you are working with people who belong to the LGB community. Bev?
Well, I'm Kate. But
Kate, sorry, Kate.
No, we're interchangeable. We're interchangeable, don't worry. Yeah, it's quite there's lots of different answers to what you've just said. But first of all, can we say we're deliriously happy at the result? Mm-hmm. We think we've set the hairs running because, frankly, there was an extremely unpleasant atmosphere, despite our attempts for 3 years before we set up LGB Alliance to engage in respectful dialogue with Stonewall. Mm-hmm. My history is Stonewall. And over a 3-year period, we wrote and asked to just talk. Let's talk about the issues of sex and gender and how they affect homosexuals. We think, when I say we've set the hairs running, we think the era of no debate is over. Because for 8 years now, Stonewall and the cottage industry of TQIA plus groups.
It's become an alphabet, hasn't it?
It has.
Yes.
And don't forget, well, anyway, let's not go there. But we think that no debate is, as a mantra, is completely incompatible with being in a liberal democracy. And all we've asked for all along is not that our views should prevail, but that we should allow a plurality of thought.
So let me just say what exactly is the difference, perhaps, between LGB Alliance and all the many, I think I can say hundreds of groups which call themselves LGBTQIA+. The difference is that LGBT people are simply people who are attracted to others of the same sex.
Yes.
That's it. Yes. It's a very simple...
So you're homosexual or you're lesbian?
Or bisexual,
or
indeed.
Bisexual.
Yes, and that's it. And we don't share any particular beliefs or any particular political persuasion. It's across the political spectrum and so on. The other groups that call themselves LGBTQIA+, and whatever, are in fact not LGBT. What they have in common is a belief. They believe that everyone has a gender identity. And moreover, they believe that gender identity is more important than sex. So if you follow that to its logical extreme, two men who both consider themselves identify as women can be a lesbian couple. We say that is not only absurd, but also quite offensive to actual lesbians.
So, I mean, you were actually set up to protect the rights of the LGB community.
Yes.
How has all of this affected the work that you actually do at ground level, as it were? Because you have so many different projects underway, don't you?
Yes.
How has that been affected?
Well, it's interesting. We started, as you said, in 2019. We started very quickly and unexpectedly. We had no idea what was going to happen. We became a limited company. We realised we should be a charity. And within 14 months of setting up, we were a charity. But from the beginning, we were very structured and organised. In fact, we modelled ourselves on the best of what Stonewall used to be. Mm-hmm. As I said, my background is Stonewall, Bev's is Gay Liberation Front. So we had a business plan 3.5 years ago, and the top project that we wanted to set up was a helpline, for an LGB helpline for confused young people. Now, our focus has always been on children because I know from primary school days, Mr. Higgins was my teacher. I was 9, and at PE, he'd divide the class. Boys and Catherine Harris over there, girls over there. Because I was athletic. I was the best in the form at football and cricket. So I went off with the boys. Now, today, a very well-meaning teacher would take me to one side and say, you know, Catherine, there is such a thing as a gender identity. Did you ever think you might be born in the wrong body? And I guarantee I mean, I was a very vulnerable child. I would have jumped at the attention. I would have gone for the testosterone, the puberty blockers, the double mastectomy. And one of the things that drives all of us is that we cannot bear that there are no voices out there saying, being a lesbian is fantastic, being gay is fantastic.
And we're back
Bev,
to
I mean, just tell us, Bev, how you feel about this too, because clearly, there is this underlying toxicity, isn't there, between the two communities now?
Well, I'm not sure even that community is perhaps, I'm not sure it's the right word, but I just remember the 1970s. When I set up, I was one of the founding members of Gay Liberation Front at LSE in 1970. And it was really important, we emphasised at the beginning of Gay Liberation, that gay liberation went hand in hand with women's liberation. We were fighting sexism in society. And there was a lot of sexism. And if you were a lesbian in the 1970s, as I was, I came out very early, you would hear from men, jokes, it was a joke. It's still, unfortunately, in many circles, a joke. And men would say, I feel like a lesbian inside. It was a horrible joke. It really wasn't funny then. And now, men are saying that they feel like lesbians inside, and they are supposed to be taken seriously. And lesbians who say, sorry, but no, if you were born male, you can't be a lesbian, are called bigots, and even by Stonewall, sexual racists.
Is there ever going to come a point where you're going to find that you are in the same place, that you've got mutual ground here where you can talk to each other?
We have to.
You must.
There is no choice. And this is what we've always said. We live in a liberal democracy. We're proud of the values of the Enlightenment. And the only way forward is dialogue and finding common ground. But we have been so badly slandered and defamed.
And you believe that is slander and defamation?
We have constantly,
yes.
And we are virtually unheard. Thank you for having us on. Other channels do not have us on. Our adverts have been banned from newspapers. Our voice has constantly been silenced. So to anybody who's new to this, I would say, please look at our website, LGB Alliance's website. Please look at our YouTube channel. We can only get our message out through social media, and our message is about dialogue, facts, respectful debate, and above all, prioritising truth to children, because we're going through an extraordinary phase in history where black is white. The opposite of what you see is the reality.
Yesterday, there was a very large demonstration in London, which was actually about not LGB rights, but trans rights. Now, that community who do believe that it is possible for a man to become a woman and vice versa, they have rights too, don't they? So if you are going to protect the rights of bisexual, lesbians and homosexuals, who is going to protect the rights of the transgender community?
We have always supported the rights of trans people, and in fact many people support us and are appalled by the vile actions and misogynist actions of some of the people who claim to speak for transgender people. Transgender people have every right to be free from discrimination, for instance, in public services and so on. And if I saw a trans person being harassed in the street, I would be the first person to leap to their defence, because I will not stand for it. I have supported minorities all my life, and I will not stand for it. But when you hear people say trans rights are human rights, we all believe that. What they mean is people have the right to say what sex they are. That is what they mean. That is what trans rights or human rights mean. It means people have the right to say whether they're male or female. And we don't believe that. We don't believe you have the right to say whether you're male or female. We do believe there are two sexes. In fact, that isn't really a belief, it is a fact. People are born male or female.
You say you need dialogue. What is it going to take to get that dialogue started and to get it actually to continue on a pleasant platform, let me put it that way, rather than a toxic one?
It's a really good question, and I think the judgment is a really good starting point. And the tribunal have written, and the Charity Commission said this at the beginning, a sign of a healthy democracy and how you move forward is debate. And that is the only way forward. We need to be allowed to take part. And up until now, as I said, the mantra overwhelmingly has been no debate. That period is well and truly over.
It was very interesting. If I could just say one more thing.
Very briefly.
Yes. The Charity Commission lawyer said at the trial, in this very non-collaborative way, in fact, Mermaids and LGB Alliance are collaborating to produce the dialogue that you say we should have.
That should be the key to get them to do it. Thank you both, Kate and Bev, very much indeed for joining us.